The largest snake alive today, the green anaconda, tops out at around 250 kilograms. That's already nightmare fuel. A quarter-ton of muscle that can drag a full-grown caiman underwater and squeeze the life out of it. Now multiply that by 5. 1,135 kilograms. 13 meters long. That's 43 feet, longer than a school bus, longer than a Tyrannosaurus Rex. A body so thick, it would scrape both sides of your door frame. And here's the thing that should unsettle you. This wasn't a freak mutation. This was normal. For its time. Because 60 million years ago, Earth was running a fever so severe, it created monsters. And Titanoboa cerahonensis didn't just exist. It proves something about our planet that scientists are still arguing about today. To understand how something this impossible was actually inevitable, we need to go back to a world still recovering from the worst day in Earth's history. The Paleocene epoch, 58 to 60 million years ago. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs had struck just 5 to 6 million years earlier, a blink in geological time. The Tyrannosaurus, the Triceratops, the Mosasaurus, all gone. Their ecological niches sat empty, waiting to be filled. And the planet? It was running hot. The location is what's now La Guajira, Colombia. Today, it's one of the world's largest open-pit coal mines, the Cerrejón Formation. But back then, this wasn't a dusty industrial pit. It was the first neotropical rainforest we've ever found evidence of. A sprawling network of rivers, coastal swamps, and mangrove forests stretching to the horizon. The temperature? 30 to 34 degrees Celsius. That's 86 to 93 Fahrenheit, year-round. 4 to 7 degrees hotter than modern tropical rainforests. Rainfall exceeded 2,500 millimeters annually, possibly reaching 4,000. The air was thick, humid, and wrong somehow, like breathing through a wet blanket in a sauna. This was Earth as a greenhouse. CO2 levels far above anything we've experienced in human history. A world where the rules we know about animal size simply didn't apply. And in this pressure cooker of a world, evolution ran an experiment. The result was a creature that breaks every assumption we have about snakes. Estimating the size of an extinct snake is a mathematical headache. Snakes don't have limbs to measure, no convenient femur to scale against. All we have are vertebrae, the interlocking bones of the spine. And when paleontologists first measured the vertebrae coming out of Cerrejón, they thought they'd made a mistake. They hadn't. Titanoboa stretched between 12.8 and 14.3 meters. That's 42 to 47 feet. To put that in perspective, a standard school bus is about 12 meters. Titanoboa was longer. The largest T-Rex specimen ever found, Sue at the Field Museum, measured 12.3 meters from nose to tail. The largest land predator in Earth's history was shorter than this snake. But length is only half the story. Weight is where Titanoboa truly enters the realm of the impossible. 1,135 kilograms. That's 2,500 pounds, 1.25 tons. The heaviest green anaconda ever reliably measured was around 97 kilograms for scientific specimens, with disputed claims reaching maybe 250. Titanoboa was 5 to 10 times heavier than anything slithering through the Amazon today. And the body itself? At its thickest point, Titanoboa's diameter reached 1 meter, 3.3 feet across. If it came through a standard doorway, it would touch both sides of the frame. Standing next to it, you'd be hip height to the snake. You wouldn't look it in the eye. You'd be staring at its midsection. Here's what makes this more than just one freakish specimen. Paleontologists have recovered 186 vertebrae from from at least 28 different individuals. This wasn't an anomaly. This was a population. An entire species of these things, swimming, hunting, breeding in those Paleocene swamps. And those vertebrae? Each one is the size of a grapefruit. Set one next to an anaconda's vertebra, which looks like a tangerine, and you start to understand the scale difference. In fact, when the first bones were discovered, scientists assumed they belonged to a crocodile. Nobody could accept that a snake could be that large. Let those numbers settle for a moment. 13 meters, 1 ton, wide enough to fill your doorframe. And we found 28 of them. Because the real question isn't how big Titanoboa was. It's what it did with all that size. You'd assume the largest snake in history hunted the largest prey. Prehistoric mammals. Maybe the smaller crocodilians sharing its swamp. Something worthy of that size. The movies got it wrong. Badly. The breakthrough came in 2010, when graduate student Catalina Suarez Gomez spotted unusual bone fragments during a field expedition. Snake skulls almost never fossilize. They're designed to be flexible, with loosely connected bones that allow the jaw to stretch around oversized prey. After the animal dies, those delicate structures scatter and disappear. But these fragments survived, and what they revealed changed everything we thought we knew about Titanoboa. The teeth told the story. Titanoboa had more teeth than modern boas, arranged in dense rows along the jaw and palate. But here's the critical detail. Those teeth were weakly ankylosed, loosely attached to the bone rather than firmly fused. In the animal kingdom, that's a fish-eating adaptation. Long, needle-like teeth packed tightly together, designed not to tear flesh or crush bone, but to grip something slippery and thrashing. Something that would slide right out of a mammal hunter's mouth. Titanoboa was a piscivore, a fish specialist. Picture the hunting method. A 13-meter predator gliding through murky Paleocene rivers, visibility near zero from the silt. Its prey, giant lungfish stretching 2 to 3 meters, the size of adult humans. The snake strikes from below, those needle teeth clamping down on scales, the massive body coiling to prevent escape. A living submarine, hunting in waters you couldn't see through. But don't let the fish diet fool you. Titanoboa still packed the constriction power of its lineage. Estimates put its squeeze at around 400 pounds per square inch. That's like having a portion of the Brooklyn Bridge pressing down on your ribcage, like being caught under the tread of a tank. The fish-eating specialist could still crush anything it wanted. It just usually didn't need to. So, if you're ever transported to the Paleocene, take some small comfort. You probably weren't on the menu. You're not slimy enough. You'd just be in the way. Which, in the world of apex predators, isn't exactly reassuring. But Titanoboa didn't hunt in a vacuum. The Cerrejón swamp was crowded with giants. Every apex predator needs a kingdom, and Titanoboa's kingdom was no empty swamp. It was an arena packed with giants, all competing for the same murky waters. Start with the crocodilians. Cerrejón was a dirosaurid, a fish-eating crocodile relative measuring 1.8 to 2.2 meters, roughly 6 to 7 feet. For Titanoboa, this was barely an appetizer, a snack you grab between meals. Then there was Acherontosuchus, bigger, meaner, 6 meters long, about 20 feet, with a narrow snout specialized for the same fish Titanoboa was hunting. In most Paleocene ecosystems, a 6-meter crocodile sits comfortably at the top of the food chain. In Cerrejón, it was middle management at best. Acherontosuchus might have posed a threat to juvenile Titanoboa, young snakes still finding their size. But a full-grown adult? A ton of muscle against a fish-eating croc? No contest. The most interesting matchup, though, was Carbonemus. This was a side-neck turtle with a shell measuring 1.72 meters, over 5.5 feet long. Its jaws were powerful enough to crush bone. In a world of soft-bodied prey, Carbonemus was a tank, literally armored against the constriction that killed everything else. Could Titanoboa have taken one down? Possibly. But why bother? That shell would be nearly impossible to compress, and even harder to digest. More likely, the two simply avoided each other. A Cold War written in the fossil record between unbreakable defense and unstoppable offense. And then there was the fuel source, the giant lungfish that made all of this possible. 2 to 3 meters long, human-sized fish, abundant in the warm, oxygen-rich waters. Without this prey base, Titanoboa's metabolism couldn't function. The snake's impossible size was built on an equally impossible food supply. Make no mistake about the hierarchy here. Crocodiles, middle tier. Turtles, defensive specialists. Fish, fuel. Titanoboa, undisputed king. But how did any of this exist? How did physics allow a cold-blooded predator to reach a full ton? The answer isn't in the bones, it's in the temperature. And that's where Titanoboa stops being just a monster and becomes something far more important. Here's the biological problem Titanoboa presents. It was cold-blooded. Technically, the term is ectothermic or poikilothermic, an animal whose body temperature matches its environment. Unlike mammals, which burn calories to maintain a constant internal heat, snakes depend entirely on external warmth to power their metabolism. The larger the body, the more energy required. The more energy required, the more heat needed to drive chemical reactions in cells. A 1,135 kilogram snake isn't just big. It's a metabolic furnace that needs constant, massive heat input just to digest a meal. Modern tropical rainforests average 26 to 27 degrees Celsius, about 79 to 81 Fahrenheit. Warm, certainly, but not warm enough. The research team led by Jason Head and Jonathan Block ran the calculations. Using mathematical models that correlate snake body size with minimum viable temperature, they arrived at a number that rewrote our understanding of the Paleocene. For Titanoboa to survive, not thrive, just survive, the mean annual temperature at Cerrejón had to reach 30 to 34 degrees Celsius. That's 86 to 93 Fahrenheit, year-round. 4 to 7 degrees hotter than the warmest rainforests on Earth today. Some scientists pushed back. Wouldn't a snake that large overheat? The surface area to volume ratio means large bodies struggle to shed excess warmth. But the counter-argument is elegant. Titanoboa was semi-aquatic. It spent its life in rivers. Water conducts heat away from the body far more efficiently than air. The swamp wasn't just its hunting ground, it was its air conditioning system. In 2024, the plot thickened. Researchers in India announced Vasuki indicus, another giant snake from the Eocene, potentially reaching 15.2 meters, possibly longer than Titanoboa. But here's the detail that matters. The Vasuki's vertebrae were narrower, suggesting a more slender, cylindrical body. Titanoboa's vertebrae were wider and more robust, a thicker, heavier animal. The longest title is now disputed. The most massive is not. So what do we actually have? A snake that physically could not have existed if temperatures dropped below 30 degrees Celsius. Found in rock layers we can date with precision. From an era we can reconstruct through chemistry, pollen, and leaf fossils. Titanoboa isn't just a monster, it's a thermometer. So what does a 13-meter, 1-ton snake actually tell us? Not just that monsters existed. Not just that the Paleocene was dangerous. Something much bigger. Titanoboa cerrejonensis is mathematical proof that 60 million years ago, Earth was a greenhouse. The tropics weren't a comfortable 26 degrees. They were 30 to 34. The entire planetary climate system was running several degrees hotter than anything humans have ever experienced. CO2 levels were through the roof. The ice caps gone. Sea levels? Dramatically higher. And here's the part that should give you pause. That's not ancient history. That's climate data, written in bone. We can argue about temperature models. We can debate the accuracy of computer simulations. Politicians can claim the science is uncertain. But we cannot argue with a snake that literally could not have survived in a cooler world. Every vertebra is a data point. Every one of those 28 specimens confirms the calculation. The physics doesn't lie. The chemistry doesn't lie. The biology doesn't lie. Titanoboa didn't just dominate its ecosystem, it recorded it. This is what paleontology can do at its best. A creature dead for 58 million years, telling us what the thermometer read when it was alive. The largest snake to ever exist wasn't just a predator, it was a witness. And here's the uncomfortable question that witness leaves behind. Earth is warming again. Not by asteroid impact, not by volcanic apocalypse, by us. Titanoboa shows us what happens when the planetary thermostat cranks up. Ecosystems transform. Animals change. The rules get rewritten. The snake proved Earth was once a furnace. The question now is, what's the next fever going to create? When Earth's fever finally broke, Titanoboa vanished. The climate cooled. The vast swamp system shrank. The giant lungfish that fueled its metabolism disappeared. A creature built for a greenhouse world couldn't survive when the greenhouse shut down. We'll never see anything like it again, unless temperatures rise to match. And that's the uncomfortable truth Titanoboa left behind. The biggest snake ever wasn't just adapted to extreme heat, it required it. A reminder, carved in stone, that climate doesn't just change ecosystems, it creates them and destroys them. Thanks for watching, and until next time.